January 7th, 8:58 a.m. And I know I have a very, very feeling of a weight in my chest. Like right here. Okay. And as I have been sitting here listening to a little bit of the news or briefings, I come to think about very serious things that I have to make a note of right now in this one of my last journal entries, because I was thinking that, I have no interest in just keep talking and talking and talking. My interest is for you, my grandchildren. There are a few things that I want you to know. Because, look, I've been real all my life. And so, I know what it is not to be real, because I have known people that weren't real. They were always fake. They were real, but they were also fake. And look, in one sense, it's kind of not a bad thing. I mean, look, there's a fellow who came here to die, and my kids know him. My son Isaac, I don't think knows him, but because Isaac was never here in Florida, really. And anyway, I knew him when I was growing up, okay? And he had a little brain damage, but I always befriended him. And he could never, look, I don't even really want to like label him, okay? I made a post about him in Facebook one time when he died. He was a simple man. That's the way, okay. He was a simple man. And most of the time in his life, he never had a place to live, except his truck. And one time, he showed me his feet. I can't remember why. But man, he had cracks in his feet like a 1/4 inch deep. From living a hard life. And he was a simple man. He hauled junk, did odd jobs, but he didn't have the smarts to do anything professionally, and his temperament wouldn't allow him. Okay, he might have been maybe ADHD. All right. Now I forgot what I even brought him up for. Oh yeah, because I asked him one time, because I said, Mark, why do you embellish everything? And why do you make stuff up? And he said, because otherwise life would be too boring. Man, I know people in my life who have suffered with so much pain. Life was truly a curse. you look at a person who's like when I was a kid, I mean, I took the bus and I lived in multiple places, and so it's not just one place or the other, but I guess, fortunately, I've always been able to see people with actually like mental retardation and mental handicaps. And you look at a person who has like, Down syndrome, for example, like these people, this is what I'm talking about. These are the best hearted people by nature, okay? They don't have the cunningness to be deceptive. And but yet they're to use this word that my son used recently, and then I heard it on the radio, and I've been thinking about what the word actually means and stuff. Radical. Okay, radical means like you're out when something is radical. Okay, it's like, okay, the way that I learned the word, like a radical, like in the medical terminology, something is radical is like a radical cell, and then that can make a cancer, like that. It's something that's outside of the status quo. And so, and sometimes when things are outside of the status quo, they get persecuted, okay? People that are different get persecuted, made fun of. And that is hard emotionally. And that can drive a person into a hole. It can drive a person into a grave. But thinking about a grave, see, I used to listen to this lady who was a faith healer, and I think it was real. Her name was Catherine Coleman, with 2 Ks, Catherine Coleman. And this is when I was young, but I listened to her on the radio, and she said to when you pull when you extend the hand and pull somebody up out of the gutter, that gutter becomes the grave you bury your own pain in. Well, all right, I followed that principle when I was young, okay? And as I got older, helping people out of the gutter, like, it pulled me into the gutter, actually. Okay. And this is over a long period of time, and this kind of being pulled into the gutter, you don't think, okay, for a long time in my life, I felt, man, nothing can ever get me down. I mean, I felt like, man, I'm just amazed that, nothing can ever get me down. When I was in undergraduate school, getting my BA, I remember walking and thinking, because I had fasted for like, I don't know, 5 days or something at that time, and I was kind of like on a high of self-control or something like that, And I remember thinking, man, I'm just amazed that nothing can get me down. Well, then later on, many years later, okay, life proved to me, okay, that no, I can be brought down. And no, I can be compromised. According, to like according to like what you expect in life, okay? For example, like when I expected before I ever got married, that I was never ever going to get divorced, because I didn't want to go through that, because I mean, I went through that. I didn't want my kids to go through that, but it happened. It happened. And I really, really, really didn't want that. But that's the way it went down. And so that's just like one small example in the very beginning, of my, early days. And so it happens, to the best of us. Look, I remember one of my lawyers telling me, don't fall off your white horse. Okay? He told me that. He said, don't fall off your white horse. Well, I'll tell you, I fell off my white horse when I got busted for marijuana. Because, and look, man, it was never that big of a deal for me, but, I had a couple plants growing in my closet because I wanted to see if I could grow it. They were only like that big. Cops came into my house looking for my stepbrother because he got into a conflict with his wife. I wasn't even there. My daughter was like, I don't know, I think she was like 14 years old or something. I don't think it was 16. And I was coming back from picking up my little boy Isaac at the time, okay? And cops came to my house and looking for my brother without my permission to come in. My daughter just opened the door. They just walked in. No warrant, nothing like that. Went up in my room, looked in my closet. I had a couple little tiny plants. I got busted for marijuana. Couldn't get a job after that good job. Then I went into construction. It altered my life. It compromised me. I fell off my white horse. And now marijuana is like legal. I mean, you can go buy it in the store. At least where I live, you can. And anyway, so I feel really under the boot, okay? And I'm thinking about like pain and the pain that people suffer, and when you lose a vision. And I was thinking that about this seminar that I went to when I was also young, the basic youth conflicts. My dad brought our whole family, and we went there like every night for like a week, by Bill Gothard. And I think it was called Basic Youth Conflicts. And he said that he showed in the Bible, okay, where different characters in the Bible, like say for example Joseph, his father gave him the coat of many colors and everything, and then his brothers, faked his death, and sold him as a slave. And okay, all right, and then he got thrown in prison when he was in there, because then the king's wife, who kind of liked him or something, and threw him under the bus because she wanted him to do something and he wouldn't do it. And then he got thrown in prison because, the wife had the power over the king. And anyway, his vision, the hope that he had for his life and everything, came to an end. Like, okay, it was a death to his vision, what he hoped for. And that's probably why I always have a hard time with hope, because I've had death in my vision enough in my life to realize that hope it's not something that I should actually do. I don't get my hopes up, because it hurts when your hopes go crashing down. So, I mean, I learned that young. But anyway, he said what he taught was that using different characters in the Bible, a death that, okay, we put it like this, God brings a death to your vision. like, and then resurrects it. But okay, God brings a death to your vision and then resurrects it to like show you something, all right? To probably give us humility. Okay? And I feel under boot, okay, because like as much as I am, a part of American fabric, all right, I grew up in the time when when America was, democracy. Okay, it was, we wanted other nations and stuff to take our influence and be, economically interdependent, and good business and good relations with countries and alliances, and no more war, and constructive building stuff together. And that's where it started for me as being an American. And we had NATO, and NATO is, if you hurt one, you hurt all of us, and we're together. And now, like, I've heard people say NATO is dead. So, it's sad. And now with America acting the way, or with this administration, and bringing us, this administration is just making America in the image of Donald Trump, who's a bully. And if I could ever say that I hate somebody, I genuinely, truly down to the core of my being, despise him as a person. I despise him as a person. But, it's hard to juxtapose that with the fact that I think that, like I was thinking, that we are all, that humanity is one. And, okay, I was thinking that this is the way it has to be, all right? Humanity is one. And if we fight each other, what good is that? We will die. And I think this is the experiment, all right? If humanity can be as one, or if we will kill ourselves. And it may be that God is bringing a death into America in order to resurrect, something new, maybe, I hope. But I feel under the boot. I feel under the boot because of what's going on in America. It's not the America that I grew up with. And now it's being normalized. And lying is being normalized. Like, it doesn't matter what the truth really is. You just make up your own truth. Because nothing matters. And see, in my opinion, it used to matter. It used to matter. And now either people are so stupid or deceived, but this is where I think about myself, like, okay, like I know there's a lot of people that I know that they're like deceived about things. Like they don't even really know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on. except maybe in their little, 15-foot radius circle. But let me just play this one part here, because I just wanted to bring up this from my journal. Come on. Well, my remote is not working. Jeez.
Continue to argue about international politics as if there were this group of countries that you could call the West. And in fact, it made a lot of sense. And furthermore, the West, during the unipolar moment, was interested in spreading liberal democracy all around the world. As you know, the United States, during the unipolar moment, adopted this foreign policy of liberal hegemony. We were interested, a la Frank Fukuyama, in spreading democracy all across the planet, because we thought that was all for the good. The Europeans bought into this enterprise. It was reflected most clearly in NATO expansion. NATO expansion was initially all about spreading liberal democracy, economic interdependence, and so forth and so on, Western institutions into Eastern Europe. So it was very easy during the unipolar moment, as it was during the bipolar moment, to talk about the West. But that world has gone away, and a lot of it has to do with...
See, he just said that world has gone away. So it's sad, and so I have to think about the death of the vision, the American vision, what people fought and bled and died for and suffered for, and the loyalty and the brotherhood, and the sincerity and the honesty. That's why, okay, if you're going to be honest, you're going to pay attention to science for one thing. You're going to pay attention to all the different studies that we've ever been doing. That's why you should get a good education. But there's such a thing as one kind of education that has to do with some certain stuff. Well, there's also education that has to do with morality and decency and stuff like that. And some people, they don't learn it. Like Donald Trump, for example. I don't know. He did Little Piggies. I think when he was little, I think that his mom or somebody, told him a story about the little piggies and the big bad wolf, and that he was not a little piggy. Okay, he was a big bad wolf. And everybody else was little piggies. So anyway, I just wanted to say, because look, I know yesterday, when I was making my journal entry, I did identify myself as both a piece of shit and a nugget of gold. Okay. Okay, so this is America is also a nugget of gold and a piece of shit. Each one of us, every one of us, are a piece of shit. Every one of us. There's not one person alive on this planet in humanity that is not a piece of shit. In one sense. In a sense. Okay? And at the same time, a nugget of gold. And you better know what you are inside. You better know that you're a nugget of gold. Well, you won't really be a true nugget of gold. I mean, if you're not honest, and if you're not sincere and and fervent. So, because I mean, if you just like some kind of person that's going to exploit whatever they can exploit, not care about the planet, not care about pollution, not care about, changes in technology that can save our planet, only care about what's immediate, not look for the future, well then, you'll be a hunk of coal, not a nugget of gold. That's why, because I know this and I believe it. That's why, and I do believe I am both a nugget of gold, and I can't identify, because I am just bad. Look, man, look. I live by faith, okay? But that's why, look, I built this climbing wall out here or this thing out here that I did, I haven't actually made the climbing part yet, but I mean, I got it like that far. And for two purposes, one is something I can save on there for you, my grandchildren, because I didn't really write this, I made this more for my grandchildren, because dung butter, for you, my grandchildren, because dung butter is actually, a made up kind of thing, for me. I mean, I'm just making it up, okay? And it's just a metaphor, okay? It's just an object lesson. All right, it's just something to provoke your curiosity about, and while at the same time encourage you to climb every mountain. And so, see, that's why I know I'm bringing my thing here, my journal entries here to a close. So, I mean, I'm not saying this is gonna be my last one. My heart is really grieving right now. Like, I don't know, I might have to say something for my journal, keep my journal going a little bit longer. But I just, I have imaginations and stuff like that of bombs dropping. And people starving. Anyway, things could get really bad before the American vision completely is killed. But then hopefully God will resurrect it, okay? This is a story that comes from the Bible. And I learned this in the Bill Gothard Institute for Youth Conflicts. That God brings a death to our vision, but resurrects us up back again. And that is what happened to Joseph in the Bible. You should read the story. And the coat of many colors, means every color has a meaning. Okay, black represents sin. Okay, gold represents the throne, God's throne. Okay, blue represents heaven. Red probably represents humanity and blood, okay? Humanity and the blood, and the strivings in humanity, okay? And green represents the earth, grass, green. But blue is the sky. Blue is also the sea and the sky. See, these colors, they mean something to us. In fact, I read a long time ago, I can't remember the philosopher. Look, I don't know if it's the same guy that did phenomenology or what, I can't remember. Could be Heidegger, I don't know, see, the names slipped me. Schopenhauer, I don't really know, I can't remember, okay? But there is a philosophy of color. I can't remember who it is. Somebody wrote about the philosophy of color. All right. Well, Joseph had a coat of many colors. Okay, that's intentional. That's put in the Bible like that for a reason. It's for a purpose. A purpose. It's metaphorical. It's symbolism. Okay, it provokes thought. Just like my sign provokes thought. Okay. The coat of many colors. Plus, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. Okay. So if you have a colorful life, okay, you will experience everything in your life, okay, including the black of sin or the black of sadness and sorrow. Hell. Okay? Right at the bottom of the shitter. Some people get more black in the coat that they wear than other people. You know? And okay, let me finish up this one point though. I was thinking humanity is one. Okay, so we have all these colors. We have all these colors in humanity. And humanity is one. And God, if there is God, I believe there is, although it can't prove anything, but we'll deal with humanity as one. One hope from the beginning of time all the way until now. And this is also the rule of Sun Tzu too. So, that gives us one lesson to think that this could possibly be the arrangement. All right? In fact, I'm just going to call this one right here the arrangement. Okay? Because the arrangement is we come into this life and we suffer. All right? Some people more than others. And since we see some people that suffer worse than us, then it pains our heart because we can actually see it from a different perspective and how sad that is. But, you know, we still do suffer a little bit. Some people don't suffer much. Okay? I'm not sure what color suffering might be. But I know it's definitely a mixture of colors, probably. Okay, well, we suffer. And in suffering, we find peace. And we find solidarity with each other. And we feel that we are one. People that suffer together bond together in their suffering. And if they can get out of the suffering, when it's a bond for a lifetime, because they've suffered together. And as Bob Dylan said, behind every beautiful thing, there's been some kind of pain. I heard that he was in the hospital recently. I've seen a picture. But he's old. And he's going to die. And that's going to be sad for me too. But we're all going to die. I think about dying all the time. I think about dying all the time, seriously. That's what the arrangement is. And so, you know, I just felt this is very important because this is the time we're in. This is what I see. And I see America dying. And I see myself dying. And I evaluate, we are just like, you know, Jacob's coat of many colors. And we know suffering. Most of us know pain. All of us know pain. Even in childbirth there is pain. And that was the curse. That was the curse. That a woman in childbirth, bearing a child, would suffer pain. And that's one of the first lessons in the Bible. And so, we are born into a world of pain, and we are born into a world of shit. But it's the arrangement is we got to try to make something out of this shit. We got to try to make, first of all, holy shit. And you can make holy shit after you learn that you can make dung butter. And dung butter is hard work, sweating the crack of your ass. This is the arrangement. So, and but I want to tell you this, my grandchildren, because as encouragement. Okay, look, you got to live by faith. Okay, even if your vision comes to an end, if what you hope for doesn't come to pass, like it didn't for me. Okay, and now my life is coming to an end, and I'm thinking about these things, you know, sincerely and heavily. And where we're at right now is kind of like a boot up right on my chest, and it don't feel good. And sometimes that's how we die. And but the promise of faith is that there will be resurrection. If there is a God, I believe there will be resurrection. But we got to try to do our best. And that's it.